Hello there, gentle soul. Before we begin, there's something you should know. This story you're about to hear is more than just a bedtime tale. It's a story about how to stay strong in tough times. About what to do when life feels hard. When things don't go your way. And when you're not sure if you can keep going. This is a powerful life lesson. Told through soft footsteps. A cracked little jug. And a baby camel who didn't think he was strong enough. Until he learned that true strength is quiet, gentle, and full of love. So if your heart has been tired lately, if you felt a little lost, or if you're just trying your best every day, this story is for you. Because sometimes, the smallest hearts carry the biggest courage. And the hardest journeys lead to the most beautiful places. So come closer. Let's take a walk into the golden desert, where the wind whispers, and even the sand remembers every step. You'll meet Zayn, a baby camel with big sparkling eyes, who sets out on a journey to save his village. Even though his legs are wobbly, and his jug is cracked. And maybe, just maybe, his journey will remind you of yours. If stories like this help you feel a little braver, a little calmer, or a little more hopeful, you can gently help this desert grow. With a like, a quiet share, and by clicking the subscribe button. That one small tap helps us tell more stories like this to more hearts who need them. And share with us where you're listening from. We'd love to know what time it is for you, and what your sky looks like tonight. Now, snuggle in. Let your body relax. Let your thoughts rest. Take a soft breath in, and a slower breath out. There you go. Let's begin our journey. With a cracked jug, a heart full of wonder, and a baby camel who will teach us all that even in tough times, you are never too small to make a difference. In a quiet corner of the wide golden desert, where the air turned soft and cool each evening, and the sky stretched out like a blanket of deep velvet blue, a baby camel named Zayn curled up beside his mother. The stars above twinkled gently, as if they were listening. A hush filled the air. The wind whispered, and the sand barely moved. Zayn's big, round eyes blinked slowly. They sparkled like two little moons, wide with wonder, full of questions. "Mama," he whispered, snuggling close, "can you tell me a story?" His mother, Layla, with her soft, warm voice, began to hum a lullaby only the desert knew. Then she smiled and said, "Yes, my love. I will tell you your favorite story." Zayn's ears perked up. "It begins," Layla said, "long, long ago, when the first stars learned to walk." She looked up at the sky. Every night, when the world grows quiet, a special parade of glowing animals walks across the sky. They are called the Star Walkers. A gentle elephant with shining tusks, a wise old owl who carries a lantern on his back, and tiny foxes made of stardust. Zayn's eyes grew wide. They walk slowly, in silence, Layla continued, guiding the hearts of those who are brave, and kind, and full of dreams. Zayn sighed. "I want to walk with them someday, Mama." His mother kissed his forehead. "You will, my shining one. But only those who follow their hearts, and never give up, are invited." Zayn blinked up at the sky, where the stars twinkled just a little brighter. "And," his mother added, her voice softening, "there is another story." Zayn turned to her. "Far beyond the sand mountains," she said, "hidden behind heat and silence, is a place called the Lost Oasis. It's not like the wells we have here. It is a garden, deep and wide, full of green trees and fresh water. The water never runs out." "Never?" Zayn gasped. "Never. Never," she nodded. "It flows through the earth like silver light. It brings life. It brings hope. Could it help our village? He asked. His mother paused. If someone found the lost oasis, she said slowly, they could bring back water for everyone. The wells would be full again. The plants would grow. Our old ones could rest. And your papa, he could heal. Zayn looked up at his mother. If someone found the lost oasis, he asked softly, could it really help Papa? Layla's eyes shimmered, just a little. Yes, she whispered. If we had water again, clean, cool water, he could rest. He could grow strong again. Zayn's ears drooped gently, brushing his cheeks. He didn't speak, but inside his heart, something tugged. Because Zayn remembered. He remembered when his papa used to laugh so loud that birds flew from the trees. When he'd lift Zayn high into the air like he was made of feathers. When he'd carry water from the well with no trouble at all and say, strong backs build strong hearts. But then, last season came. There were too many hot days, and too few rainy nights. Papa started coughing, at first just a little. But then more. And more. Soon, he was too tired to stand. Too weak to carry the pail. His shoulders slumped like dry leaves. Zayn would bring him dates and a bowl of water, but the water was running out. Now Papa stayed in bed, his eyes often closed, his chest rising and falling like the wind trying to stay awake. Zayn missed his laugh. His strength. His hugs. So when Mama spoke of the lost oasis, of water that never dried, that could bring life back to the desert, Zayn didn't see just trees and streams. He saw his papa, standing tall again. Zayn's eyes softened. Do you believe it's real? His mother smiled gently. I believe, in hearts brave enough to look. That night, Zayn dreamt of glowing creatures walking across the sky, and a secret garden hidden under golden light. But dreams faded quickly. The next morning, the desert changed. The sun rose high, and hot. The air felt sharp. And when the villagers gathered at the well to fetch water, the ropes pulled up only dust. No water. None. The desert was thirsty. The goats stopped laughing. The birds stopped singing. And even the sun seemed to be angry. The villagers panicked. They gathered near the dry well, voices trembling. What do we do? Asked Goober the goat, his knees knocking together. The crops won't grow without water, cried Tiki the meerkat. My little ones need to drink, murmured an old owl. Zayn stood behind a low rock, listening. His heart was thumping hard. He thought of his papa, still lying quietly at home, too tired to speak, his breath slow and thin. He thought of the dry bowls, the cracked lips, the frightened eyes. Then, something inside him stirred. It wasn't loud. It wasn't fast. It was small, but steady. Like a candle in the dark. Zayn stepped forward. The crowd turned. I will go, he said, his voice soft but clear. I'll search for the lost oasis. A quiet breeze blew through the circle. Then laughter. Goober the goat wheezed, You'll trip over your own feet, Tiki giggled. Zayn looked down at his wobbly knees. But he didn't turn back. He was afraid. But not of walking. He was afraid of doing nothing. Just then, his mother stepped forward. She carried something in her mouth. An old, dusty jug. It was chipped. Cracked all over. A piece of it was missing on the side. She placed it gently on Zayn's back. Zayn looked up at her, confused. It's broken, he said quietly. Layla smiled. Yes. But even this, she whispered, still holds due. Zayn's lip wobbled. His mother touched her nose to his. Every crack tells a story, she said. This jug may not hold much. But it holds enough. Just like you, she whispered. Even if others don't see your strength, it's there. She looked into his eyes. Take each step, she said, and take it with thanks. Zayn tilted his head. Thanks. Layla nodded. That's called gratitude, my love. It means being thankful for what you do have. Even if it's small. The desert was quiet again. The morning sun had climbed high into the sky, and little Zayn the baby camel was still walking. His hooves made soft crunching sounds on the sand. Crunch, crunch, crunch. The cracked jug on his back swayed gently with each step. Clink, clink, clink. It was his very first journey away from home. He had never walked this far before. And though the sand sparkled like sugar and the sky looked like a giant soft hug, something felt different. The air had changed. The wind began to move in strange ways. It started as a whisper. Then a hum. Then, a howl. Zayn's ears twitched. The sky turned sharp and dusty. The wind rushed faster. Louder. The sand started to fly. Zayn's eyes widened. He didn't understand what was happening. He remembered something Mama had said once while they were snuggled by the fire. When the wind screams and the sand dances wild, we call it a sandstorm. You must stay low, stay calm, and wait for the storm to pass. This must be it. A sandstorm. And now it was here. Zayn crouched down and squeezed his eyes shut. The storm roared around him, swirling and growling like a giant beast made of dust and wind. The cracked jug rattled on his back. Sand stung his cheeks, his ears, his eyes. He buried his face into his legs and began to cry. Not quiet tears. But big, heavy ones. I don't know what to do, he sobbed. I don't know where to go. I'm scared. His chest felt tight. The fear. The worry. The missing of Mama and Papa. It all felt like a giant rock sitting on his heart. I'm not brave enough, he whispered. I can't do this. And then. A soft creak. A tiny glow. Zayn opened one watery eye. Through the dust, a small lantern was glowing, warm and golden. And holding it, steady and smiling, was a little desert mouse with bright eyes. Hello, the mouse called, gently. You look like you're in a stormy sort of moment. Zayn sniffled. Who are you? I'm Dash, said the mouse, lifting the lantern just enough to light Zayn's face. Let's get you somewhere safe. Zayn followed him beneath a small stone arch where the wind was calmer and the sand couldn't reach so deep. They sat down. The lantern glowed between them. Zayn wiped his eyes with the back of his leg. I didn't know storms could feel this scary. Dash nodded gently. I didn't either, the first time I got caught in one. Zayn looked up. You've been in a sandstorm too? Oh yes, Dash said with a slow nod. Many moons ago. I was small. I was frightened. I didn't know what was happening, or how to make it stop. Zayn leaned in. I cried too, Dash said. And I remember thinking the storm would never end. Zayn's ears twitched. But it did. Dash smiled. It did. And someone found me, an old turtle, kind and quiet. He gave me a lantern just like this one, and he said. Dash leaned closer and whispered. If the world grows dark, we can be the ones who bring the light. Zayn's eyes shimmered. The storm was still rumbling faintly outside, but his heart was quieter now. Dash gently placed the lantern between them, its glow soft and steady. He looked at Zayn with kind eyes. I can see it, Dash said softly. You're holding a lot inside. Zayn sniffled, his eyes filling again. Dash nodded gently. My mama always said, when you share your heavy thoughts, they get smaller. Zayn hesitated. Then, like opening a little window, he began to speak. I miss my papa, he whispered. Dash listened. I feel really small. Like I don't know if I can do this. Dash said nothing. Just listened. I'm scared the oasis isn't real. And what if I fail? What if I never come back? Zane wiped his eyes again. Dash placed one tiny paw on Zane's leg. There, he said. You see? It's already a little lighter, isn't it? Zane paused. He did feel a little lighter. Sometimes, Dash continued, our feelings get big like balloons. Talking lets a little air out, so we can carry them without floating away. Zane gave a quiet, watery laugh. That's a funny picture. Dash grinned. Feelings are funny sometimes. And heavy. But they don't have to carry you. Zane curled his legs beneath him and took a long, slow breath. The lantern flickered gently. Dash stood and dusted off his paws. The road ahead won't be easy, little camel. Zane stood, too. There will be moments that make you tired, Dash said. There will be losses, and moments when you feel like sitting down forever. Zane nodded. But you, Dash said, you have something strong inside you. He looked up at Zane. You have the strength to keep going. The strength to stand tall. And if the world knocks you down. Dash tapped Zane's knee. You get to rise again. And every time you do, you grow a little stronger. That's how tough hearts are made, not by never falling, but by always getting back up. Zane smiled, just a little. The storm outside was only a whisper now. Dash picked up the lantern and turned toward the quiet sand path ahead. Come on, he said gently. Let's take the next step. One step at a time. Slowly, and surely. Zane followed. The cracked jug tapped lightly on his back. The lantern's warm light danced across the sand. Dash hummed a little desert tune, his tail swaying with the rhythm. Zane giggled. You walk funny. Dash looked up. Thank you very much. That's my fancy travel shuffle. They both laughed. And for the first time since the journey began, Zane felt something else rising inside him. Hope. Not because the desert was smaller. But because his heart was lighter. And because he knew, he wasn't walking alone. The sun was beginning to tilt, painting the desert with long golden shadows. Little Zane, the baby camel with wide sparkling eyes, walked softly across the warm sand. Beside him was Dash, the desert mouse who had helped him through the storm. Zane's legs still wobbled now and then, but inside, he felt steadier than before. Braver. I think I can do this, he whispered to himself. Dash smiled. One step at a time. As they walked, the sand under their feet began to shift in tiny waves. Zane paused. The ground's wiggling, he said, ears twitching. Is it, laughing? Before Dash could answer. Whoosh! A blur of color zipped past their noses. Then, pop, a head burst out from the sand. It was long, scaly, and wore a crooked little smile. Hello, oh there, chirped the bright-eyed lizard. He had soft green scales, clever little claws, and a tail that curled like a ribbon. You look like travelers, or maybe just lost. Zane blinked. I guess I'm walking. Well, you found the right patch of sand then, said the lizard, puffing out his chest. I'm Ziggy, finder of paths, dancer of dunes, and collector of curious trades. Trades? Zane asked softly. Indeed. Ziggy said, bouncing in a circle. Secrets, songs, shiny pebbles, and sometimes, snacks. Dash chuckled. He once gave me directions in exchange for a half-eaten beetle. Ziggy winked. And it was a very crunchy beetle. Zane giggled, then grew quiet. He looked at Ziggy and asked, do you know the way to the Lost Oasis? Ziggy's eyes sparkled. Ooh, the oasis. Now that's a story worth telling. He stepped closer. I just might have a way. But it's not free. Zane's ears twitched. I don't really have anything. Ziggy tapped his claws thoughtfully. You sure? Not even a crumb. A whisper. A wish. Zane opened his little satchel. Inside was only one thing. A single, tiny grain of rice. It was the same one that Nima, the village cook, had placed there before he left. For good luck, she'd whispered, smiling softly. Zane stared at it. It was so small. Just one grain. Could something so little really be enough? He looked out across the desert. The sand shimmered. The air was quiet. He thought of the storm, when the wind had screamed and he could do nothing but wait. Mama said, Zane murmured, that sometimes, you just have to let go. Dash tilted his head. Like the storm. Zane nodded slowly. You can't stop it. But you can choose how you wait through it. You can choose what you hold on to. And what you let go. Dash smiled gently. Sounds like your heart's growing wise. Zane looked back at the rice. He could keep it. It was all he had from home. But he also had something more now, a choice. I choose to give it, Zane said softly. With thanks. He held it out to Ziggy with his small hoof. Dash gave him a quiet nod. Ziggy's eyes lit up. Aha! A treasure from the heart. The best kind. He snatched the rice gently, tucked it into a pouch, and zipped beneath the sand with a wiggle and a squeak. Zane blinked. He disappeared. He does that, Dash chuckled. Zane stood quietly. Had he just given away the only thing that tied him to home? Was it a mistake? But he took a slow breath. No. He had chosen. And some choices, even hard ones, make your heart feel lighter. Just then, poof. Ziggy popped back up, beaming. In his claws, he held a smooth eggshell, curved and delicate. On it was a map, drawn in dark strokes, made from ash and dust. A wiggly path, some stars, a droplet, a crooked tree. Zane's eyes widened. It's beautiful, he whispered. And possibly useful. Ziggy said proudly. Dash squinted. Possibly. The desert dances, Ziggy explained. No map stays perfect. The sand has a mind of its own. But this will help more than walking in circles. Zane took the eggshell carefully. It was warm from the sun. He studied the tiny drawings. Every line. Every symbol. Even if it's not perfect, he said, I'm grateful. Ziggy's eyes crinkled. Gratitude. That's a treasure no wind can steal. He tapped Zane's satchel gently. You may be small, long legs, but you carry big things in your heart. Zane smiled softly. Ziggy did a joyful spin, bowed low, and vanished into the sand once more, just a wiggle and a swirl. Zane and Dash sat down beneath a twisty little tree. The air was cooler now. They didn't speak for a while. Just breathed with the desert. Zane stared at the map. It wasn't shiny. It wasn't grand. But it was something. And maybe, so was he. He had made a hard choice. A kind one. A grateful one. Dash looked over at him. Do you think we'll find it? Zane whispered, I don't know. He smiled softly. But I'm glad I gave the grain. I controlled what I could. I let go of the rest. Dash nodded. That's wisdom. You can't control the wind. But you can choose to keep walking through it. Zane looked at the sky. Then at the little map. Then forward. Let's follow the dancing cactus, he said, pointing to the first symbol. Dash grinned. And do the silly wiggle along the way. Zane stood and did a funny little shimmy. Like this? Dash laughed. Wigglier. They both danced for a moment, laughing under the golden sky. And when they were done, they walked. Not fast. Not certain. But steady. Zane whispered a little "thank you" into the breeze. To Nima. To Mama. To the wind. And to his own small, growing courage. Far ahead, the desert waited. And somewhere beyond the next hill. So did hope. The sun stretched its golden arms across the desert, touching the sands with a sleepy glow. Little Zane, the baby camel, walked quietly, his big eyes watching the gentle hills of sand ahead. Beside him, Dash the desert mouse skipped along, humming the tune from earlier. The eggshell map tucked safely in Zane's satchel guided their every step. I think we're close to the dancing cactus, Zane said softly, his voice full of hope. Dash nodded. I bet it's just over that ridge. But just as Dash leapt ahead to climb the next sandy hill. Crack. Slip. Crumble. The ground beneath Dash's paws gave way. Zane gasped and rushed forward. Dash. And then, whoosh. The sand slid out beneath Zane too. Down they tumbled, sliding and spinning into a wide, soft pit hidden below the surface. Thump. They landed in a dusty heap. Oof, Dash groaned, brushing sand from his ears. That was not my best leap. Zane groaned too, slowly sitting up. Are you okay? I've been better, said Dash, rubbing his side. Zane winced and looked around. The pit walls rose tall and crumbly, their shadows stretching overhead. But a soft sound reached his ears, something small, something trembling. He turned his head. Curled in the far corner of the pit was a baby fennec fox, his sand-colored fur almost blending in with the walls. His giant ears drooped low. Zane blinked. Hello. The little fox looked up slowly. His big eyes glimmered. Is the sky still there? He whispered. Zane stepped closer. Yes, it's still there. But it's just the sky. It doesn't want to hurt you. The fox pressed his paws to his face. It's too big. It watches me. Zane sat gently beside him. My name's Zane. What's yours? Tariq, the fox said softly. Zane gave him a little smile. Tariq, the sky can feel scary when you look at it all at once. But I've learned something. He looked at the crumbling wall. Sometimes, when we're scared, we want to run away or wait for the fear to go away on its own. But it doesn't. It just waits too. Zane looked into Tariq's eyes. And the only way to stop being afraid, is to go through the thing that scares you. That means facing it, even if it's hard. Tariq nodded slowly, listening. Zane sighed. But first, we need to get out of this hole. He looked up at the steep wall. His legs were tired. His back ached. It would be so easy to sit and rest. But Dash came up beside him and whispered. Sometimes, when everything feels tough, we take it one step at a time. And that starts with doing the hardest thing first. Because once you do that, everything else gets easier. Zane nodded. He took a deep breath. All right. I'll try. He walked to the side of the pit, planted his hooves deep into the sand, and looked up. It was high. The wall crumbled as he touched it. But he didn't stop. Step by shaky step, he climbed. Sand tumbled down around his legs. But he kept going. His heart beat fast. Then, he found a rock. He pushed off it. One more step. One more reach. And with a final push, Zane made it out of the pit. He lay on the edge for a moment, breathing hard. Then he stood. He turned and called down. Tariq. Hold on to my scarf, I'll pull you up. He untied the scarf from his satchel and let it fall gently over the edge. Tarek looked up, shaking. I'm scared. Zane's voice was calm. You're allowed to be. But you're not alone. Tarek walked slowly to the scarf. Wrapped his tiny paws around it. Zane held on tight, pulling gently but firmly. Come on, Tarek. You're doing it. And inch by inch, with Zane's strength and a lot of courage, Tarek climbed out. When he reached the top, he flopped onto the ground and held Zane tightly. I did it, he whispered. You did, Zane whispered back. Even with the sky above you. I still don't like it, Tarek admitted, peeking up. Zane smiled. That's okay. But you didn't let it stop you. That's called bravery. From below, Dash's voice echoed, you two done having a moment up there? They peeked over the edge. Dash had already tied the scarf around his belly like a belt and zipped up the wall with ease. I may be small, he said, brushing off his fur, but I've got tricks. The three friends laughed together. They walked again. The desert changed. The ground grew smoother, glassy and hard like frozen sugar. It reflected their tiny faces like mirrors. Tarek stopped. I look like a walking balloon. Dash posed. I look magnificent. Definitely taller in this one. Zane chuckled. My ears are doing a funny dance. The laughter echoed gently over the hot, quiet valley. But after the giggles faded, the heat returned. The walk felt long. Their muscles ached. Zane slowed. I'm so tired. Dash flopped onto a rock. My paws feel like soup. Tarek took a deep breath. I know a trick, he said. He dropped to the ground and pressed his giant ear against the glassy sand. He moved a little, paused, listened again. There's water, he whispered. Not far below. Zane blinked. How do you know? Mama taught me, Tarek said. She said, sometimes you feel before you see. The desert speaks, if you listen. Zane knelt down and touched the sand. He couldn't hear anything. But he believed. He didn't need to see it. Hope could whisper too. Dash stretched. I believe I hear snacks in my dreams. Tarek pounced on him playfully. Snack attack. Zane laughed so hard he had to lie down. The walk was hard. But the laughter made it lighter. They stood again. Zane took the lead. Tarek beside him. Dash danced ahead. Each step was small. But they were stronger now. Not because the path got easier. But because they had learned something. Taking the hard step first makes everything else feel possible. Zane smiled. Let's go. Dash grinned. Lead the way. Tarek looked up. The sky was still big. But he didn't hide. He walked on. And the desert whispered with pride. The desert air had grown still. Too still. Little Zane, the baby camel, walked slowly now, each step soft and careful, like the sand might whisper a secret if he stepped too loud. Beside him, Dash, the desert mouse, was unusually quiet. No songs. No jokes. Just gentle little paw prints behind Zane's. Tarek, the baby fennec fox, had stopped asking questions. His big sand-colored ears stayed low. Even his tail, usually twitching with curiosity, now dragged behind him. The sun wasn't as bright anymore. And the wind had stopped playing. Something ahead was different. Zane lifted his eyes. There, rising from the ground like broken teeth, were sharp stones. Long, jagged shadows stretched across the sand. The path narrowed into a deep, rocky place. It was dark. And quiet. Too quiet. Dash swallowed. Is this it? Tarek sniffed the air. It smells like dust and memories. Zayn stepped forward, one shaky hoof at a time. The canyon walls rose higher around them, closing in. The sunlight faded until only little patches lit the path ahead. And on both sides were bones. Small bones. Large ones. Some half buried in sand. Some still wrapped in faded cloth. Old footsteps. Lost hopes. This is where they stopped, Zayn whispered. Dash nodded slowly. The travelers who didn't make it to the oasis. Tarek pressed close to Zayn's side. Why did they stop? Zayn looked around at the silent canyon. His heart felt heavy. Maybe, they got too tired, he said softly. Or scared. Or maybe, Dash added, they tried to carry everything by themselves. Zayn's ears drooped. The cracked jug on his back shifted gently. He stopped walking and tilted it. A thin stream of water trickled out from a crack near the base. Oh no, he breathed. It's leaking. Tarek's eyes widened. Can we fix it? Zayn shook his head slowly. No, he whispered. We can't stop the cracks. It's too far gone. He stared at the little puddle of water in the dust. His throat felt dry. His chest felt tight. Dash sat down. It's okay, Zayn. We didn't bring the jug to be perfect. Zayn blinked fast. But it was supposed to carry water home. For Papa. For everyone. Tarek curled beside him. Mama once told me, when something breaks, it teaches us where it's strongest. Because those are the parts that still hold on. Zayn looked up at the canyon wall, high and cold. This place, he said softly, feels like it remembers sadness. Dash stood and placed his tiny paw on Zayn's leg. Maybe, he said gently, this is where we're supposed to leave our fear behind. Zayn looked down at him. Dash continued. We've come so far. But we can't carry everything. Not fear. Not sadness. Not control. He pointed up. And that's when they saw it. A giant vulture circling in the sky. Its wings were wide. Its feathers black as shadow. It glided silently above them, round and round, just watching. Tarek froze. Dash backed up. And Zayn trembled. His legs wobbled. His chest beat like a drum. I'm scared, he whispered. The vulture dipped lower, its shadow stretching over the canyon. Zayn closed his eyes. I want to run. He felt it, deep inside, that curl of fear that begged to hide, to disappear into the sand. But he opened his eyes. And saw Tarek, staring at him. And Dash, standing small but steady beside him. Zayn took a deep breath. He whispered to himself, I can't control the vulture, or the sky, or the cracks in my jug. He stepped forward. But I can choose, to keep walking. The wind moved again. Just a little. Zayn's hooves pressed into the dust. Even when I'm afraid, he whispered, I will keep walking. The vulture let out a long, hollow cry and soared upward, away into the clouds. Dash let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. Tarek exhaled too, his ears flicking gently. Zayn smiled softly. I'm still scared, he said, but I'm standing. Dash grinned. That's what it means to be brave, Zayn. You don't wait until you feel brave. You stand even when you're not. Tarek added, and sometimes, the fear flies away. They continued through the canyon. Step by slow step. The bones around them stayed quiet. But now, they felt less like warnings, and more like whispers of stories that didn't finish. Zayn looked at each pile and whispered, I will walk for you. And again, I will walk for you too. And, I will not stop here. Dash said, we carry their dreams with us. Tarek said, and our own. As they reached the edge of the canyon, the walls began to lower. Light returned. The sky opened again, wide and soft above them. They stood at the top of a hill. Below was more sand. More road. But it looked golden now, touched by the late afternoon sun. Zayn sat and pulled the jug from his back. Only a little water was left inside. But just enough. Maybe it was never about carrying full jugs, he said. Dash tilted his head. What do you mean? Zayn smiled. Maybe it's about how far you're willing to carry it. Even when it's leaking. Tarek rested his head on Zayn's leg. Even when it's cracked. Zayn nodded. Even then. He lifted the jug and tilted it gently. A few drops trickled into the sand. Tarek blinked. You're pouring it out. Just a little, Zayn said. Dash asked, why? Zayn closed his eyes. To say thank you. He breathed slowly. For the travelers who didn't finish. For the fear that didn't win. For the journey we're still on. The water sparkled in the light, then disappeared into the sand. The desert breeze stirred around them, soft and kind. Zayn whispered, I can't fix the jug. I can't stop the wind. But I can take another step. Dash nodded. Then let's take it. Tarek stood and stretched. I think the sky's a little less scary today. Zayn smiled. Maybe because you're standing taller. Together, the three little travelers walked out of the canyon of bones. The sun followed them. The wind hummed a gentle tune. And above them, the vulture was nowhere in sight. Zayn whispered, keep walking, even when you're afraid. And the desert whispered back, yes. The sun was leaning lower in the sky now. Its golden light spilled across the desert like warm honey, brushing over the hills of sand and kissing the tips of Zayn's ears. The baby camel walked slowly, his legs tired, but his heart still glowing. His cracked jug swayed gently on his back, and every now and then, it made the softest little drip sound. Next to him, Dash, the tiny desert mouse, hopped in short skips, rubbing his nose now and then and looking around with wide eyes. And behind them padded Tarek, the baby fox with sand-colored fur and giant listening ears. He didn't fear the sky as much anymore. Today, it had stayed soft and blue, without any loud winds or scary birds. They were quiet for a while. Not because they were sad. But because sometimes, after you've done something brave, like crossing the canyon of bones, your heart needs a little time to be still. Tarek's ears twitched. Zayn. Zayn looked over gently. What's next? Zayn glanced at the eggshell map in his pouch. Its drawings were faint now, rubbed a little by sand and time. I think, Zayn said slowly, we just follow the sun. Dash looked up. What if it sets? Zayn smiled softly. Then we rest, and wait for it to rise again. And they kept walking. The ground beneath them began to change. The sand, once loose and powdery, felt firmer now. It stuck together a little more, like it had been touched by something different. Tarek stopped. He sniffed. Do you smell that? Dash blinked. Is that flowers? Zayn paused. Yes. The air was changing. Cooler. Softer. And there was something new riding on the wind. A smell like honey, and mint, and rain. They crested the next dune. And gasped. Stretching out before them, as far as their eyes could see, was a field of wildflowers. In the middle of the desert. Tiny blossoms in every color danced in the breeze. Pink. Yellow. Blue. Purple. They peeked from cracks in the ground, from behind stones, from places that had seemed dry and empty before. Zayn stepped forward, mouth slightly open. What is this? Dash was speechless. Tariq whispered, "It's magic." The petals waved at them, like 1,000 tiny hands saying hello. Zayn's heart felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Wonder. The three friends walked slowly through the flowers, their paws and hooves brushing against petals. Some flowers leaned toward them. Others gently tickled their legs. Zayn leaned down to sniff one. It smelled like home. Not the dry part. Not the thirsty part. But the part when Papa used to laugh. When Mama sang while cooking. When water boiled in the pot, and everything felt safe. His eyes grew soft. His lip wobbled. Dash saw it first. "You okay?" Zayn nodded. "Yeah. I just didn't know the desert could do this." Tariq sat down beside a bright orange flower. "How did this happen?" As if in answer. A shape appeared between the flowers. A slow-moving, quiet figure. Old and gentle. It was a tortoise, cloaked in a patchy hood of moss and leaves. His shell was wide and weathered, with deep carvings like maps from long ago. He stepped carefully through the flowers and stopped just a few feet from the little ones. Zayn, Dash, and Tariq stood very still. The tortoise looked at each of them, his eyes kind and twinkling. "You made it," he said softly. Zayn blinked. Did you plant all of this?" The tortoise chuckled, low and warm. "No, little one. The desert did. I only waited." Dash scratched his head. "Waited? But the desert was dry." "Yes," the tortoise said. "Dry on top. But deep down, the roots were growing all along. You just couldn't see it yet." Zayn whispered, "So the flowers were there, just hiding?" The tortoise nodded. "Sometimes things take time. The rain came, long ago. The seeds waited patiently. And when it was right, when the ground was ready, they bloomed." Tariq's ears twitched. "Even though it looked empty?" The tortoise smiled. "Yes. Because some things grow even when we don't see them." Zayn sat slowly beside a cluster of blue blossoms. He ran his hoof through the petals. "I guess. I've been trying so hard to hurry. To find the oasis. To carry everything. To be strong enough, fast enough." The tortoise walked up beside him and placed a gentle foot on the cracked jug. "Little Camel," he said, "you're not empty. You're becoming." Zayn looked at him. "But I don't feel like I've changed." The tortoise looked up at the sky. "When the first flower bloomed, do you think it shouted, 'Look. I've grown'?" Zayn blinked. "No," he said. "It just bloomed," the tortoise whispered. Quietly. Beautifully. In its time. Dash stepped forward. "How do we know when it's time?" The tortoise gave a small shrug. "You don't. That's the part you let go. You water the ground. You walk your path. You care. You hope. And then, you wait." Tariq lay down on the flowers, face toward the sky. "That's hard." The tortoise chuckled again. "Yes. But all good things grow slowly." Zayn sat with the tortoise for a while. The breeze brushed his cheeks. He thought of Papa. Of Mama's soft voice. Of the cracked jug that still held dew. He closed his eyes and whispered, "Thank you." Dash looked over. "For what?" Zayn smiled. "For this moment." The tortoise gave a slow nod. "That's gratitude, little ones. Not wishing for more, but seeing what's already here." They stayed in the bloom for a while. They played a little, Tariq chasing butterflies, Dash weaving tiny flower crowns, Zayn resting in a soft patch of golden blossoms. They didn't talk much. But their hearts spoke for them. Later, when the sun began to lower even more, the tortoise stood. It's time, he said gently. The oasis is still ahead. Zane stood, brushing petals from his fur. Will we see you again? The tortoise smiled. I'm always where things are growing. Zane gave a little bow. Goodbye. Grow well, said the tortoise, and turned back toward the flowers. The three friends walked once more. Zane looked over his shoulder. The bloom was already fading behind them. Not gone, just folding gently into the earth. Tarek looked at the horizon. Dash whispered, do you feel it? Zane nodded. Yes. Hope. The kind that grows even when you don't see it. Even when you're tired. Even when it's quiet. Because somewhere deep in the sand, roots are waiting to bloom. And in their hearts, so were they. The sky had turned a sleepy lavender, brushed with hints of gold and plum. The stars were just beginning to blink open, one by one, like shy fireflies finding their courage. Zane, the baby camel, walked slower now. Not from tiredness, but from something else. Something he couldn't name, but could feel. The air had shifted. Beside him, Tarek padded quietly. His giant ears brushed gently against Zane's shoulder now and then, like a soft reminder, I'm here. Dash, still wearing his now droopy flower petal hat from the bloom, zipped ahead in tiny energetic bursts. I think I see something. Dash called back. It's shiny. Zane squinted. The sand ahead was no longer soft and warm. It grew firm beneath their feet. Smooth. Almost slippery. He paused. Looked down. And blinked. The ground wasn't sand anymore. It was glass. Not the kind that sparkles in shards, but the kind that lies still, quiet, like a sleeping lake. A mirror. Zane leaned in. He saw himself. Not blurry. Not dusty. But clear. His wide, moon-bright eyes. His soft fur, glowing gently in the twilight. His cracked jug, resting faithfully on his back. But then. The reflection changed. The Zane in the glass stood taller. Stronger. His jug, shiny, unbroken. His hump, proud and full. And his eyes, bright as stars. Tarek gasped. Zane, you look amazing. Dash trotted up, puffing out his chest. Whoa. Even I look magnificent. Look at these whiskers. And, are those abs? The path ahead twisted into a gentle hill, the ridge of reflections. On either side, tall mirror stones stretched into the sky, each one showing new versions of them. Zane with royal saddlebags and a medal of honor. Dash standing atop a pile of scrolls, tail wrapped in golden thread. Tarek wearing explorer goggles and a compass belt, wind whipping through his fur. Tarek bounced from one to the next. In this one, I'm flying. Dash added, in this one, I'm king of snacks. They laughed. But Zane's steps slowed. Each reflection sparkled, perfectly. But something inside him stirred. Like walking through a dream that whispered, you could be this, if you didn't have to try. One mirror shimmered brighter than the rest. Zane stepped closer. It showed him standing at the Lost Oasis. Animals gathered around him. His cracked jug gone. His father, strong and laughing again. His mother, holding flowers. All was perfect. Easy. His heart thudded. He reached out a hoof. The glass gave way. And just like that, he was somewhere else. A quiet world. A glowing garden. The wind cool and kind. The paths clean and soft. And standing before him, another Zane. Polished. Rested. Calm. The perfect Zane. You made it, said the other Zane, with a voice like gentle music. Zane looked around, breath caught. Is this real? It can be, the reflection said. Here, you don't have to struggle. You don't have to feel tired. Here, everything is already done. Zane blinked. The pain in his legs, gone. The crack in his jug, sealed. His heart, light. Too light. Do I have to go back? He whispered. The other Zane smiled. Only if you want to. Or, stay. It's easier here. Zane looked behind him. No Dash. No Tariq. No path. Just glow. His ears drooped. Then, a flicker. He remembered the storm. The rice grain. The pit. The canyon. The bloom. The laughter. He remembered not just being perfect, but being real. Zane looked up. This place is beautiful, but it's not where I'm needed. The other Zane said nothing. Zane stepped forward. The Zane my papa loves, is the one who keeps going. Even when his jug leaks. Even when it hurts. And in a blink, the glowing world vanished. He was back. Back on the ridge. Dash was tugging his leg. Where'd you go? You were staring into that mirror like it owed you answers. Tariq nodded. We thought you turned into a statue. Zane blinked. Wiped his cheek. I went somewhere, quiet, he said. It showed me who I could be, if I didn't have to try. He looked again at his reflection, this time, the real one. Dusty. Wobbly. Cracked. But honest. I like who I'm becoming, Zane whispered, because of the trying. Dash tilted his head. So, no mirror monsters. Nope, said Zane. Just a mirror me. Tariq grinned. Did he have a cape? No, said Zane. He had peace. But no story. Dash nodded slowly. It's easy to choose the path with no bumps. But the bumpy one? That's where your heart grows strong. Zane smiled. I choose the bumpy one. The one with cracks. They sat together on a warm, polished stone. The mirrors around them were quiet now. Still. Zane leaned back and looked at the sky. Choosing is hard, he said. But choosing means you're not stuck. Dash added, it means you're still writing your story. Tariq smiled. And the best stories have hills and holes and heroes who snore. Zane blushed. That was one time. They giggled. And overhead, a single star sparkled brighter, like it heard everything. Zane closed his eyes. I choose the path where I carry the jug. Even if it leaks. Dash said, I choose the path where I'm small, but helpful. Tariq yawned. I choose the path with friends who make me brave. And the desert listened. The ridge of reflections faded behind them as the night deepened. But one thing remained. Their choice. Not to be perfect. But to be present. Not to shine without effort. But to grow through it. Zane whispered, I choose the journey. Not the illusion. And just beyond the next dune. The earth was about to shake. But Zane. He would face it. Because he had chosen to keep walking. The desert slept under a soft, star-filled sky. Zane, Dash, and Tariq were still curled on the cool sand, just past the hill of mirrors. The night air was gentle. It whispered around them like a lullaby. Zane stretched his legs with a little groan. My hooves feel like jelly. Dash peeked over, blinking sleepily. Mine feel like raisins. If raisins could ache. Tariq was still snuggled under his tail, mumbling in his sleep. No more sky today, just a little blanket. Zane smiled. He looked up at the stars. They weren't glowing animals yet, like the ones Mama spoke of in stories. But they sparkled kindly. Patiently. As if watching. Zayn closed his eyes. And then. A sound. A low, deep rumble. At first, it felt like the wind shifting. But then it grew louder. The sand beneath them trembled. Dash's ears twitched. What's that? Tariq sat up, blinking. Are the stars growling? Zayn stood, his heart thumping. I don't think that's the stars. The ground shook again, harder this time. Rocks rolled from the slope nearby. And with a loud, echoing crack, the earth split. Before any of them could move, the ground opened beneath their feet. And down they tumbled. Dust. Wind. Light. Noise. Then. Silence. Zayn blinked. Everything was dark. Completely dark. He couldn't see Dash. He couldn't hear Tariq. He tried to move, but his legs felt tangled. Dash, he called out. Tariq. Silence. Then. A soft glow. Like a little heartbeat of light. And then another. Tiny glowing bugs blinked into sight, lighting the air around them like stars under the ground. Zayn sat up slowly, brushing sand from his ears. Ugh, Dash groaned. Why does it always involve falling? I'm okay, came Tariq's voice from the side. I think I landed on something soft. That was me, said Dash. Oh. Sorry. They looked around. The walls of the cave shimmered with drawings, ancient murals painted long ago. Animals walking together. Trails through dunes. Someone holding a jug. Someone planting a seed. Zayn stood, awestruck. What is this place? He whispered. It looks like a memory, Dash said quietly. Tariq padded closer to one of the walls. This one looks like you, Zayn. Zayn blinked. The painted camel had a crack down its side, but carried water across the sand. He didn't know what to say. Just then. A warm glow appeared from behind a rock. Tiny wings. Soft golden light. A firefly. She hovered gently in front of them, like a little lantern in the dark. Zayn gasped. You're real. The firefly bobbed. I've been following your light for a while. Dash blinked. We have light. Not the kind you see, the firefly whispered. The kind you carry. Zayn's eyes shimmered. Can you help us get out? There's a tunnel, she said, floating upward. But it's tight. Dark. Long. You'll have to crawl. Dash gulped. Crawl where I can't see. That's not my favorite kind of tunnel. Tariq shivered. I don't like when I can't stretch my ears. Zayn looked down the tunnel. It was narrow. Cold. Mysterious. His knees wobbled. But he took a deep breath. Fear doesn't mean stop, he said softly. It means feel, and go. Dash looked at him. You made that up just now, didn't you? Zayn smiled gently. Maybe. The firefly hovered beside him. Go slow. Trust your breath. One by one, they crawled into the tunnel. It was tight. Zayn's jug scraped the top. Tariq had to fold his ears. Dash squirmed between their legs, grumbling softly, if we get stuck, I'm blaming the snack pack. But they kept moving. Sometimes the walls felt like they were closing in. Sometimes Zayn wanted to turn back. But he kept whispering to himself, feel and go. Feel, and go. Until, finally, light. They spilled out into a lower part of the cave where soft moss covered the floor and the air smelled of stone and springtime. Zayn lay back, breathing hard. Tariq flopped beside him. I'm never crawling again. Dash wheezed. I missed the surface. Zane looked up at the ceiling, glowing with the firefly's light. And something inside him bubbled up. Not fear. Not doubt. But something heavy. Something he'd been holding too long. He sat up, eyes shiny. I miss home, he whispered. Dash turned toward him. Zane's voice trembled. I miss Papa. I miss Mama's songs. I miss waking up without fear. He looked down. And sometimes, I feel like I'm not strong enough to finish this. The cave was quiet. Tariq crawled over and placed his head on Zane's leg. Dash moved beside him. The firefly landed softly on his nose. You don't have to carry all of it, the firefly whispered. Zane blinked. Dash scooted a little closer, his voice soft but steady. Remember what my mama used to say, Zane. When you carry too many heavy thoughts, you have to let some go. Zane's eyes shimmered. I remember. But, how do I let go? Tariq added gently, or else your heart gets too full. Like a pouch with too many pebbles, it can tear. The firefly floated up, glowing like a soft breath of light. You start by finding your quiet. And then, speak what hurts. Even just a little. That's how you empty the heavy. Dash nodded. You don't have to fix it all. Just say what's inside. Like letting a little air out of a balloon. Zane closed his eyes. He placed one hoof over his chest. He remembered what Dash had said in the sandstorm. Talking lets a little air out, so you don't float away. And so, he began. Not loud. Not fast. Just honest. I'm scared I won't be enough, he whispered. I'm scared Papa will still be sick when I get back. I'm scared of failing. His voice cracked. But he kept going. I miss home. I miss feeling small without feeling lost. I miss the way Mama's voice made the whole tent feel safe. The cave held his words like a promise. No echo. No judgment. Just stillness. The tears came quietly. Warm. Soft. Like dew on desert petals. He didn't sob. He didn't wail. He just released. And when he opened his eyes, the cave seemed brighter. And his chest, lighter. Dash smiled, blinking slowly. Feel better? Zane gave a small, wobbly laugh. Yeah. I think I do. Like I just unpacked a heavy bag I didn't know I was carrying. Tariq curled closer. You don't have to carry everything, Zane. You just have to carry you. Zane stood. Let's keep going. The firefly lit the way ahead. This way, brave hearts. As they followed, Zane looked back once more at the cave where he had let go. Then forward. Doing the hard thing first, he said quietly. Even if the hard thing is, feeling. Dash nodded. Especially then. And together, they walked out of the cave. One step closer. One breath steadier. One heart lighter. The desert night came quietly, like a soft blanket being pulled across the world. After the trembling cave, after crawling through the narrow tunnel, after facing their fears in the dark, they were finally free. Zane, Dash, and Tariq stood just outside the rocky mouth of the cave, blinking up at the sky. The stars above had never looked so wide. So still. So kind. Zane let out a long, shaky breath. We made it. Dash stretched out his arms and flopped dramatically into the sand. I'm never crawling again. I've had enough tunnels for 10 lifetimes. Tariq limped slightly behind them. His usual bounce had faded. He didn't complain. But his paws dragged a little, and his ears didn't perk the same way. Let's find a place to rest, Zane said softly. They walked a little further until they found a quiet rise above the dunes. The wind here was calmer, like a mother's hush, brushing over the earth. Zane, the baby camel, stood at the edge of the slope. His hooves pressed into the cool sand, and his big, sparkling eyes looked up at the moon. It peeked from behind a sleepy cloud, casting gentle light on the dunes that curled like waves. Behind him, Dash was busy patting sand into a lumpy mound. "I need extra fluff," he mumbled, shaping a tiny crater. "Preferably goosefeather-level fluff. Maybe with a mint." Tarek lay down beside a rock. He was quieter than usual. No sky jokes. No teasing. No talk of snack crowns or secret maps. Just a soft sigh, and a shiver. Zane turned. "Tarek?" The little fox didn't answer. Zane walked over and knelt beside him. Tarek's sandy fur, usually fluffed with curiosity, looked flat and sticky. His ears drooped low. His breathing was shallow. Zane touched his forehead gently. It was warm. Too warm. "He's sick," Zane whispered. Dash scampered closer, ears twitching. "What do we do?" "I can't fix fevers. I mean, I once wrapped a beetle in a leaf, but that was for a stubbed claw." Zane looked closer. That's when he saw it. A shallow but nasty cut ran along Tarek's back leg, just behind his knee. It must have happened while climbing out of the cave. The tunnel had been narrow and sharp, and the stone walls weren't kind. The wound had crusted with sand. But now it looked red and swollen. "No wonder he's unwell," Zane murmured. Dash tilted his head. "That looks sore." Zane nodded. "It needs help. But we don't have bandages or medicine." Dash looked around wildly. "We need something. Anything." And then, Zane saw it. A small cactus grew nearby, leaning under the moonlight. Its spiky skin glistened slightly with moisture. "Aloe," he whispered. "Mama once showed me. Some cacti have healing juice inside." He walked carefully to it. "You have to thank the plant," she'd said. "Take only what you need." Zane gently broke a thick, green pad and whispered, "Thank you." The cactus wept a clear, gooey sap, cool and soothing. Zane used the edge of a leaf to gather the gel and brought it back. Dash stood guard like a tiny doctor. "Careful. Gentle paws only." Zane knelt beside Tarek and slowly applied the aloe to the cut. Tarek flinched, then relaxed. The gel cooled his leg like a soft breath of rain. Zane wrapped his scarf around the leg gently, not too tight, just enough to keep the gel in place. Tarek blinked his heavy eyes. "That feels better." Zane smiled softly. "It's aloe vera. From the desert. It knows how to heal." He lay beside his friend, curling his soft body protectively around him. Dash curled on the other side like a fuzzy comma. Together, they made a warm, quiet circle of care. The cactus sap glowed faintly under the stars. The night whispered around them. And somewhere above, the firefly floated down again. Her gentle light blinked slowly, like a lullaby. Zane looked up and breathed out, long and low. "Thank you," he whispered. Dash peeked one eye open. "To the cactus?" Zane nodded. "To the desert. To the aloe. To the stars. To this moment." Dash blinked slowly. "Even though he's hurt?" "Especially then," Zane said. "Because sometimes, the hard moments are the ones that grow the most gratitude. Not for perfection, but for presence. For the tiny things that help." The desert grew quiet again. Tarek's breathing softened. And Zane, his heart still full of dust and wonder, closed his eyes. A single tear slid down his cheek. Not from sadness. But from love. Because love sometimes spills when the heart grows too full. Dash whispered, "You okay?" Zane nodded. "I'm just grateful." The firefly hovered above them. "You cared. And care is never wasted." She floated quietly over Tariq and gently rested on his scarf. The night stretched on. A wind passed gently across the hill, brushing the sand, tugging at fur and whiskers. But inside the little circle, everything was still. Warm. Whole. The next morning. The sun woke gently, spilling golden light over the dunes like a soft pour of honey. Zane blinked first, stretching his neck and hooves. The cracked jug clinked beside him, still carried. Still faithful. He looked down. Tariq stirred. His little nose twitched. Then, his eyes opened. "Still here," he croaked. Zane smiled. "Still here." Tariq lifted his head, slowly, testing his leg. He sat up, blinked, and gave a slow stretch. Zane leaned in. "How do you feel?" Tariq looked down at his leg. The swelling had gone. The aloe had dried like a gentle bandage. "I feel better," he said, blinking in surprise. "It doesn't sting anymore." Dash leapt up, eyes wide. "He's alive. I didn't have to feed him beetle broth after all." Zane laughed. "You were going to make soup." "With love," Dash said. "And maybe a crunchy topping." They all laughed. Zane gently unwrapped the scarf and peeled it back. The cut was still there, but it had closed. Soft pink skin peeked from the edges. Zane whispered, "You're healing." Tariq gave a sleepy smile. "Thanks to the cactus." Dash added, "And to you." Zane looked at his scarf, at the drying aloe, and then at his friends. "This wasn't magic," he said softly. "But it was care. And sometimes, that's enough." He turned back to the cactus and gave it a quiet bow. "Thank you," he whispered again. Tariq stood slowly, pressing his paw into the sand. "I feel strong enough to walk," he said. Slowly. Dash puffed out his chest. "Then let's go. The oasis isn't going to find itself." Zane packed the scarf and aloe-stained leaves gently into his satchel. Every little thing they'd been given. Every small gift that had helped. As they began to walk again, slowly, steadily, Zane paused. He turned his eyes to the cactus one last time. "Even the desert," he said, "can hold healing." Dash whispered, "Even sharp things can give softness." Tariq added, "Even hard places can help hearts." And together, under the morning sun, they took their next steps. Not fast. Not perfect. But grateful. Because sometimes, when you stop looking for magic, you find care. And sometimes, that's even better. Zane whispered as they walked, "Thank you, aloe." The wind caught his words and sent them spiraling gently through the air, carried off into the desert. And maybe, just maybe, the desert whispered back, "You're welcome." The night had passed, slow, quiet, and kind. And now, the sky was turning a soft blue, as if someone was gently waking the desert with a whisper. Zane blinked open his sleepy eyes. The world still shimmered with early morning hush. The cool air brushed his fur, and a faint glow rimmed the dunes like a sleepy smile. He stretched his long legs with a soft grunt, a sound like the desert yawning. Beside him, Dash was snoring loudly from under a pile of sand and leaves he had shaped into a very uneven dome. He called it his snack fort, though it contained no snacks, only imagination and leftover crumbs. Tariq, the baby fennec fox, lay curled like a sandy cinnamon roll, breathing softly. The scarf Zane had wrapped around his wounded leg was still in place. The cactus aloe had dried into a gentle crust. Zane smiled. They had made it through another night. And somehow, the desert had held them. He turned toward the edge of the dune, and paused. Just above the sand floated a gentle, pulsing glow. The firefly. She blinked slowly, her golden light fading in and out, like the heartbeat of the dawn. Zane tiptoed forward. "You're still here." The firefly turned, her wings shimmering in the morning light. "Good morning," she said softly. Zane blinked. "Is it really?" The firefly smiled. "It can be. If you let it." She turned in the air and pointed a glowing foot toward a smooth, flat stone near the edge of the rise. Zane stepped closer. There, nestled in a small groove on the stone, sat a single, perfect bead of water. Round. Clear. Shimmering. He gasped. "Is that dew?" The firefly nodded. "The very first drop." Zane blinked in wonder. "I didn't think dew could form here. It's so dry." She hovered close to the stone, her glow brushing gently over the bead. "Hope," she whispered, "isn't loud. It drips." Zane tilted his head. "What do you mean?" The firefly looked up, her glow gentle as candlelight. "Sometimes we look for big answers," she said. "We wait for rivers. For storms. For something loud to change everything." She floated closer to his side and tapped the jug resting across his back. "But sometimes, all we get is a drop." Zane looked at his jug. Cracked. Dusty. Still carried. Then he looked back at the dew. "So, how do we catch it?" he asked softly. The firefly hovered above the jug and tapped it lightly with one glowing foot. Gently. You wait. You listen. And you let go of needing more. Zane slowly lowered the jug from his back and set it on the cool stone. Its cracked mouth leaned slightly toward the dew. And then, he waited. The bead shimmered under the rising sun, wobbling like a tear. The desert stayed quiet. A light breeze swept across the sand. And the drop. Plink. It slid down the stone, caught the edge of the jug, and fell inside. Zane's eyes widened. His heart thudded with something small, but powerful. Hope. From behind him came a muffled voice. Did someone just collect treasure? Zane turned. Dash was sitting up, his leaf hat stuck sideways. Tarek was stretching gently, testing his leg. Zane whispered, "Dew. We caught the first drop." Dash blinked. "You can catch dew? Like, real water?" Tarek limped up beside them. "Like, from the sky?" "No," the firefly said, still hovering gently. "From the quiet. Dew only comes when the night has been cool and calm." Zane looked down into the jug. One drop. Just one. But it glimmered like a diamond. Tarek said, "It's not very much." Zane nodded. "But it's something. And it came when we stopped rushing. When we were still." Dash sat beside him. "I don't like waiting. I'm more of a, find it now, eat it now type." Zane smiled. "I didn't like waiting either. But this feels like the desert whispering, keep going." They all sat in silence, watching as another tiny drop formed on a nearby petal. Zane gently lifted the jug beneath it. Plink. Another drop. Tarek's ears perked up. "We're watering our jug with sky tears." Dash clapped. "We're officially storm whisperers." The firefly laughed softly. "Sometimes, blessings don't fall like thunder. They fall like sighs." So they wandered for a while, carefully, respectfully, collecting dew from shaded petals, smooth rocks, and bent grass. They didn't run. They didn't shout. They listened. They noticed. And little by little, the jug began to fill. Not much. But enough. When the sun finally rose higher and the air began to warm, the dew disappeared, vanished as quietly as it had come. Zayn tied a cloth over the mouth of the jug, careful not to spill a single drop. "It's not full," he said. "But it's more than nothing." Tariq nodded. "And that's something." They found a crooked tree with low branches and rested in its shade. The desert stretched quietly before them, not threatening, but vast. Zayn looked at the jug. Then at his friends. Then at the sky. He could have said, "Why only this much?" But he didn't. Instead, he placed a hoof gently on the jug and whispered, "Thank you." Dash tilted his head. "To the dew." Zayn smiled. "To everything. To the night. To the stillness. To the aloe. To the waiting. To the not knowing. And to you." He looked at Dash. Then Tariq. "To the ones who stayed." Tariq leaned against Zayn's side. "Even when I was sick and snoring. Especially then." Dash gave a tiny sniff. "Okay, well now I'm going to pretend I'm crying, just from allergies." They all laughed. The firefly hovered lower now. Her glow was faint in the brightening sky. "Letting go," she whispered, "doesn't mean giving up. It means trusting that something good will still come." Zayn closed his eyes and breathed that in. He didn't know how far the oasis was. Or what would come next. But he knew one thing. They had water. A little. But real. A quiet gift from the desert itself. Dash suddenly jumped up. "Can we celebrate with snacks?" Tariq looked around. "We don't have snacks." Dash blinked. "Then let's pretend." And so, they did. Zayn pretended he was sipping the rarest tea in the desert, sunrise mint with moonflower honey. Dash declared he was nibbling on cactus cookies dipped in jellybean jam. Tariq imagined a bowl of skyberries dusted with cloud crumbs and fox sprinkles. And they laughed. Laughed until their bellies hurt. Laughed until the desert felt a little warmer. A little kinder. Later, when it was time to move on, Zayn stood and lifted the jug carefully onto his back. It swished gently. Not loud. Not heavy. But steady. And somewhere inside him, something swished too. A quiet hope. One that whispered. More will come. Zayn, Dash, and Tariq had already walked for some time, slow and steady, their cracked jug swishing gently with the soft rhythm of collected dew. The desert was peaceful. The kind of peace that doesn't come from silence, but from stillness. From knowing that, for a moment, everything is exactly where it's meant to be. Their shadows stretched gently beside them. The firefly hovered just ahead, her light no longer needed in the day, but her presence as comforting as always. Dash was the first to stop walking. "Wait," he said. He sniffed the air. Then squinted at the sand. "Is that green?" Zayn blinked. "Green." Tariq padded closer and tilted his head. There, barely poking through the soft grains, was a tiny sprout. Slender. Bright. Alive. The three of them froze. It wasn't a cactus. Or a thorn. It was soft. New. Delicate. A single green shoot rising from the sand, its leaves still curled from sleep. They all just stared. Dash leaned forward, whispering as if it could hear him. "Is that real?" Zayn knelt beside it. It's a plant." Tariq's ears twitched. "Out here. In the open desert." And then Zayn remembered. The grain of rice. The one he had traded to Ziggy the desert mouse for the map. The same grain Ziggy had spit out a day later, muttering, "Tastes like dreams and disappointment." They hadn't paid it much attention. Dash had wiped it off his paw in disgust and flung it over his shoulder. Apparently, it had landed here. And against all odds, against wind and sun and sand, it had grown. Zayn whispered, "That's the rice." Tariq blinked. "The one you gave away?" Dash stared at the sprout. His voice was quieter than usual. "I thought it was gone. Wasted." Nobody spoke for a long time. The desert didn't rush them. The firefly hovered over the sprout, her wings still. "It chose to grow," she said softly. "Even when no one was watching." Zayn nodded slowly. "It didn't wait for the perfect time. It didn't wait for rain or safety or shade." He looked at the tiny green thing in the sand. It just began. Tariq sat beside it. Maybe it didn't even know if it would work. It just tried. Dash, unusually still, placed his tiny paws together and whispered, "Thank you." Zayn looked at him in surprise. Dash blinked. I never really said it before. But you kept saying it. Thank you to the dew. To the cactus. To the firefly. So I thought, maybe I should say it too." The sprout waved slightly in the breeze, as if it had heard. Zayn smiled. "Gratitude grows things, too." Tariq gently lay down beside the sprout, careful not to disturb the sand. "It's kind of amazing, isn't it?" Zayn nodded. "It's a reminder. That even when we think something is lost, it might just be growing in secret." Dash tilted his head. "So, not everything we let go of is gone." The firefly drifted lower. "Letting go isn't always losing. Sometimes, it's planting." Zayn looked at the cracked jug on his back. "I gave that grain away, thinking it was just a small trade. Something I didn't need. But maybe that moment mattered more than I thought." Tariq closed his eyes for a moment, soaking in the warmth of the sun. "Sometimes we don't see what kindness does. But that doesn't mean it didn't work." Dash plopped onto his back. "And sometimes, kindness grows into sprouts that shock your whiskers off." They all laughed gently. The wind carried a faint scent, not strong, but alive. The kind of smell that only comes when something new has touched the earth. But something stirred deep in his chest. Not sadness. Not joy. Just a quiet knowing. The kind of feeling that doesn't need words. He sat beside the sprout and breathed it in. For a while, they just stayed there. No rush. No goals. No need to control the next step. The sprout stood between them like a promise. A whisper from the earth itself, "You don't have to force everything. Some things bloom all on their own." Tariq peeked one eye open. "Does this mean the oasis is close?" Zayn thought for a moment. "Maybe," he said. "Or maybe it just means, we're not as far as we think." Dash twirled a tiny pebble between his paws. "Or maybe the oasis isn't just one place. Maybe it's little things like this." Zayn looked out across the dunes. "The world gives us gifts. Not when we shout, or search, or demand, but when we're still." The firefly settled gently on the lip of Zayn's jug, her glow pulsing faintly in the sunlight. She said softly, "You gave something up, and something beautiful grew. Not because you chased it. But because you trusted it might." Tariq rolled onto his back. "I want to nap beside the sprout. Maybe it'll grow another inch if I snore." Dash chuckled. "Your snores could grow a whole tree." They all laughed again. And then, quiet. Not the kind of silence that feels empty. The kind that feels whole. The breeze brushed past, soft and sure. Zayn looked at the sprout one more time. "You're not just a plant," he said softly. "You're proof." Dash whispered, "Proof that the desert has secrets. And some of them bloom." Zayn gently tapped Dash's paw. "And proof that you're learning to say thank you." Dash puffed up. "Well. I had a great teacher." Tariq grinned. I vote we call it Hope Sprout. Dash pointed at it. I vote we don't step on it. Agreed, Zane said with a nod. The sun climbed higher. The time to move on had come. Zane stood first, lifting the jug back onto his back. Tarek stretched and tested his leg. It still ached a little, but the aloe had worked. He gave the sprout one final, quiet nod. Dash placed a small pebble beside it. In case it gets lonely. And then they walked. Not far, not fast. Just forward. Their hearts carried more than water now. They carried wonder. And behind them, in the middle of the vast desert, a little green sprout waved in the breeze. Softly. Quietly. Alive. And maybe, just maybe, it smiled back. The desert stretched wide and quiet. Golden light shimmered over the hills of sand as the day began to soften. Zane walked with slow steps, the cracked jug gently swaying on his back. Tarek padded beside him, his soft paws brushing against the ground. And Dash, well, Dash was walking sideways, balancing a stick on his head. Do you think if I keep doing this, Dash whispered, I'll unlock ancient mouse wisdom? Tarek grinned. Only if that stick doesn't poke your ear again. Dash puffed up. That was one time. And it was very dramatic. Zane chuckled. You looked like a walking desert kebab. They all giggled. Then, Zane stopped. He squinted at something ahead. Shapes. Moving slowly through the haze of heat. Cloaks. Dust. Shadows. But not scary. Just, still. Who are they? Tarek whispered. Zane didn't answer. He just stepped forward. As they walked closer, they saw a group of animals wrapped in soft, faded cloaks. Their eyes looked tired. Their steps slow. Like they had been walking for a long, long time, and then forgot why. Hello, Zane said gently. The group paused. Heads turned. An old antelope stepped forward. You're still walking? He asked. Zane nodded. A tortoise near the back whispered, not many keep going. Most, stop. Dash stepped up proudly. We're going to find the Lost Oasis. The group stirred. The Oasis. Still looking. Even now. Zane held his jug a little tighter. Yes. We're still looking. A young jackal stepped forward. Her cloak was covered in tiny stitched stars. She looked at Zane with eyes that had seen a lot. She asked quietly, why didn't you give up? Zane took a slow breath. He thought about the storm. The canyon. The dew. The sprout. He thought about his mama. About his papa lying sick. About the village that once danced under the stars. He looked at her and said, gently. Because I still have hope. Hope that I can help my family. Hope that we'll find water. That we'll find something better. The group of travelers was quiet. The jackal tilted her head. Even with that old jug. Dash waved a paw. Hey. That old jug has collected more miracles than your average fancy bowl. Zane smiled. It's not about how it looks. It's about what it carries. The jackal blinked. But what if the oasis isn't real? Tarek spoke up. Maybe the oasis is real, but not in just one place. Dash added, or maybe it's in the trying. In the walking. Zane looked at them all. And maybe, the only way to find out, is to keep going. The group of travelers shifted, like a breeze had passed through them. A lioness whispered, we stopped. We thought, it was too late. Zane looked at her kindly. It's never too late. If your heart still wonders, you can still walk. Dash stepped up beside him. Even if you need breaks. Even if you walk slow. We've done all of that. Tariq grinned. We even got stuck in a cave once. Dash cried. Dash pointed. That was sand in my eyes. And feelings in my chest. And also sand in my nose. The jackal laughed. A soft, real laugh. Then she asked, "Can we walk with you?" Zayn nodded. Of course. And so, the group began to move again. Not fast. But together. They talked as they walked. They shared old stories. Some shared songs. One porcupine played a melody on a flute made from a dry reed. And Dash shared imaginary snacks. I now present, invisible cactus pie, he announced, holding nothing in his tiny paws. A meerkat blinked. What's it made of? Hope. And a little cinnamon, Dash said proudly. Laughter danced across the group. The sun dipped lower. As evening came, they stopped to rest. They circled around small stones. No fire, just quiet warmth from each other. The firefly fluttered overhead, her golden light flickering like a soft heartbeat. Zayn looked around. So many faces. So many stories. He sat down beside the jackal. What made you stop before? He asked gently. She looked at the sand. I was scared. Tired. I thought, maybe the oasis wasn't meant for me. Zayn nodded slowly. Sometimes I feel that way too. She looked at him. You do. He smiled. Hope doesn't mean you never feel afraid. It just means you keep walking anyway. She was quiet for a moment. Then, she reached into her cloak and pulled out a small charm. A string of beads shaped like tiny moons. She tied it to Zayn's jug. For luck, she whispered. Zayn's heart filled with something soft. Something real. Thank you, he whispered. Later, when everyone was resting, the lioness sat beside Zayn. She had been quiet all evening. Now, her voice was soft. You reminded me what it feels like, to believe again. Zayn didn't answer. He just placed his head gently against her shoulder. And that was enough. Dash tiptoed over with a piece of dried cactus peel. Anyone want a slice of dessert bravery? Everyone giggled. Tariq flopped beside him. I'll take two. As the stars blinked awake in the sky, the firefly floated over the sleeping group. Her golden light touched each traveler, one by one. Zayn looked up. We're not alone anymore. Dash snuggled into his side. We're a team now. Tariq whispered, a family of the road. The wind moved softly over the sand. And Zayn smiled. They had not yet found the oasis. But they had found something else. Connection. Hope. A reason to keep going. The desert was still wide. Still unknown. But now, they were many. And somewhere in the quiet, Zayn whispered. Hope is enough for today. The firefly's light glowed a little brighter. And all around them, the desert listened. And held them gently. Until morning. The morning came with a hush. Before the sun had fully risen, the group of travelers, animals in cloaks, once weary and unsure, gathered their things quietly. One by one, they bowed to Zayn, Dash, and Tariq. They didn't speak much. Just soft smiles. Gentle nods. The jackal said, You reminded us how to begin again. The old tortoise whispered, It's time we walk our own path now. Zayn hugged each of them gently. We'll meet again, he said. And then, like shadows sliding across the sand, the travelers disappeared into the golden morning. The desert grew quiet again. Zayn, Dash, and Tariq remained. Alone. But not lonely. They watched the sun rise slowly. The wind was still calm, for now. Zane took a deep breath. We should get moving too. Dash wobbled to his feet. I need a snack and a song. In that order. Tarek smiled, but his ears twitched. He felt something. Something coming. The wind shifted. The sand stirred. And in an instant, the sky roared. The calm was gone. The wind howled like a beast. It whipped through the desert, lifting the sand into sharp claws that scratched at the sky. The thunder didn't rumble. It roared. And lightning cracked so bright, it turned night into day for just a breath. Zane crouched low, his eyes narrowed against the sting of the storm. Dash clung to his tail like a wind-tossed scarf, ears flat and cheeks puffed with fear. Tarek sat still beside them, his fur bristling in every direction. The storm was alive. It wasn't just wind or rain or thunder. It was watching. Waiting. And then, it came. The air changed. The sky shimmered. And from the heart of the clouds, a shape began to form. Big. Bright. Silent and strong. A creature stepped through the storm. Tall as the tallest dune, and glowing with soft silver light. She had fur like fog, and 9 great tails, each one swaying like silk banners in the wind. Her eyes were glowing gold. A 9-tailed fox. Not a myth. Not a story. Real. Her voice didn't come from her mouth. It came from everywhere. Tarek. Dash blinked. Did the sky just say our friend's name? Zane looked at Tarek. The little fox wasn't shaking. He wasn't hiding. He was, still. Tarek? Zane whispered. Tarek didn't answer. The fox stepped closer, her paws not touching the sand. You were never meant to walk this path, she said. You are the prince of the thunderstorm. You belong to the clouds. Dash's mouth dropped open. Prince of the what now? Zane's eyes widened. That's why you were afraid of the sky. Tarek nodded slowly. My mother is the sky fox. Keeper of storms. I was born in the clouds. I was raised with lightning in my fur. He looked at his paws. But I didn't want to fly above the world. I wanted to feel it. I wanted to laugh. I wanted friends. The 9-tailed fox's tails flicked gently, scattering golden sparks across the wind. You ran away from your place, she said. But the storm will always find its prince. Tarek stepped forward, standing tall even as the wind howled around him. I didn't run because I hated who I was. I ran, because I didn't know who I could be. He looked at Zane. At Dash. At the tiny cracked jug still tied to Zane's back. I found that answer here. Dash sniffled dramatically. This is too much. I need a nap. Or pudding. Or both. Tarek smiled. I used to think thunder was only scary. But now I know, thunder is also strength. And sometimes, it's a snore. Zane chuckled softly. You do snore like a skyquake. Dash raised a paw. Seriously, I thought the tent was collapsing. Tarek blushed. Okay. It's the storm inside me. Then he turned back to the 9-tailed fox, his mother. I'm not done walking, he said. Not yet. The wind paused. You still choose the dust? She asked. You still choose the desert? Tarek shook his head. I choose them. Zane stepped beside him. He chose kindness. Laughter. Friendship. He chose us. Dash sniffed again. I'd hug you both, but I'm too small to reach. The fox looked at her son. And for a moment, everything was quiet. The storm held its breath. Then, the 9-tailed mother stepped forward. She lowered her head to Tarek. touched her nose to his, and wrapped her tails around him like a warm cloud. "You have grown," she whispered. "You have learned what the sky could not teach you. How to fall. How to get up. How to care." Tarek blinked back tears. "Can I come home, later?" She nodded, eyes glowing softly. "When your heart says it's time." Tarek smiled. "Thank you, Mama." The fox turned to Zayn and Dash. "You were the storm he needed. The kind that doesn't break, but builds." She raised one glowing paw. And the storm opened. Clouds parted. The wind stilled. And in the distance, past the golden dunes, something shimmered. The sand sparkled like sugar. Blue water danced between palms. Color bloomed across the rocks. Birdsong filled the air like music. Dash gasped. "The oasis." Zayn stepped forward, his eyes wide. "It's real." The fox smiled. "This is my gift. Because you walked through the storm, together." Zayn whispered, "We didn't do it perfectly." Dash added, "We tripped. A lot." Tarek said, "But we never left each other." The fox's 9 tails wrapped once around them all, just for a moment. And then, gently, she lifted into the sky. Light surrounded her. And just like a cloud touched by the sun, she faded. Gone. But not lost. Tarek stood for a moment, watching the clouds. "I thought I had to be a prince," he said softly. "But maybe I just had to be me." Zayn smiled. "That's all we ever wanted." Dash tugged his paw. "Now, come on. Let's go find a snack tree in that oasis." Zayn turned to Tarek. "You ready, Thunderfox?" Tarek grinned. "Let's finish this adventure." And so, they walked. Zayn, Dash, and Tarek. Son of the sky. Prince of the storm. Together. Not toward the end of their journey, but into the heart of it. Toward the lost oasis. Toward what they had always been seeking. Not just water. Not just rest. But truth. Love. And each other. The desert had never been this quiet. It wasn't the quiet of emptiness. It was the quiet of peace. Of something finally found. The wind, once sharp and questioning, had softened into something more, like a sigh. It moved gently across the golden dunes, brushing the sand with the lightest fingertips. The sun, too, had changed. No longer blinding, no longer heavy, it glowed with a warm amber hue. It kissed the traveler's fur and scales with kindness. And just ahead, nestled in a graceful curve of smooth stones and velvet grass, something shimmered. Zayn blinked slowly. Dash's whiskers twitched. Tarek's ears turned toward the sound of trickling water. They stood side by side at the crest of the final dune. The lost oasis. It was real. Below them, water glistened like crystal glass. Not muddy or still, but alive. It danced softly in the breeze, cradled by swaying palm trees and flowering reeds in every color, violet, peach, sun yellow, and sky blue. Even the air smelled different. Like fresh leaves, cool rain, and something older. Something sacred. Tarek was the first to speak. He whispered, "It's more beautiful than I ever imagined." Dash's mouth hung open. "Is this real, or did I hit my head on a rainbow again?" Zayn took a slow breath, and a small, soft smile tugged at his lips. "It's real," he said. Their hooves and paws pressed forward, slowly, carefully, like they were walking through a dream made of glass and wonder. They reached the water's edge. Zayn knelt. With quiet reverence, he removed the jug from his back and lowered it gently into the pool. The water rushed in, cool, clean, and endless. The cracks in the jug let a few silver drops escape. But that was okay. Even joy is allowed to spill a little. Tarek stepped into the shallows. The water curled around his paws like greeting hands. He closed his eyes, listening, not with his ears, but with something deeper. The ground beneath him hummed, a quiet song only he could hear. Dash had already flopped down on a patch of soft moss. He stretched out, one leg across the other, eyes half closed. "I'm never leaving," he mumbled. "You guys can build a village here. I'll be the official nap tester." Zane chuckled. Tempting. But the village still needs help. He looked at the full jug, now glowing with light and life. "But, how can we carry enough back?" he asked. Tarek opened his eyes slowly. His tail shimmered faintly. I know a way." Zane turned, curious. Tarek stepped forward and knelt beside the pool. "When I was little, my mother taught me to listen, not just to sound, but to the water beneath the ground." He placed one paw gently against the earth. "There are rivers," he said. "Hidden rivers. Old, forgotten veins that sleep beneath the sand." Dash blinked. "Like secret water snakes?" Tarek smiled. "Something like that." He looked at Zane with quiet determination. "If we guide the water from this oasis underground, I can help lead it home. Not just a jug full. A spring. A gift that keeps giving." Zane's heart lifted like a kite on soft wind. "You mean, we could bring the oasis to them?" Tarek nodded. "Yes. The desert may look dry, but it listens. It remembers." Dash sat up. "And not just carry it back in a soup bowl with a handle." Zane turned toward the glimmering pool. "Then we make a plan," he said. "Together." And so, they worked. They spent the day tracing the edge of the water, weaving reeds into little markers that pointed east, toward the village. They gathered stones to place in soft patterns, breadcrumbs for the earth to follow. Tarek moved with care, pressing his paws to the ground, whispering in a voice only the roots could hear. "Here," he'd murmur. "Not loud. Not fast. Just, this way." The firefly hovered beside him, her golden glow dancing on each ripple. "You were always meant to guide," she said softly. "But now, you guide with love." The sun slowly dipped toward the horizon, painting the sky in sleepy oranges and purples. The air cooled, and shadows stretched across the sand like long, soft yawns. The path was marked. The hidden spring had stirred. Zane filled the jug once more, even though he knew they wouldn't need it in the same way. The water would follow now. Not just for a week. Forever. A gift, not only found, but returned. That evening, the three of them sat beside the pool, their reflections dancing gently on the surface. Dash had braided palm leaves into 2 floppy trays. "One for now," he declared, "and one for the journey." He pretended to place fruit into the leaf bowls. Tarek leaned back with a laugh. "I'll take the one with cloudberries, please." Zane smiled, watching them. His eyes drifted down to the jug. It wasn't just full of water now. It held every step they'd taken. Every fall. Every laugh. Every tear that had not been wasted. "I used to think the Lost Oasis would fix everything," Zane said quietly. He looked up at the stars, now twinkling like old friends. "But I think the journey fixed us first." The firefly landed gently on the jug. "Sometimes," she whispered, "the treasure isn't the water. It's the walk." Tarek placed a paw on Zane's. "And we're not done," he said. "Your village still needs you." Dash looked up. "Then we go back. All of us." Zane blinked. "You come with me?" "Of course," said Tarek. Dash puffed his chest. The village needs jokes. And snacks. And dramatic storytelling. I'm practically essential. Zane's voice wobbled. Thank you. The wind stirred gently, rustling the palms. And the stars above shimmered brighter, as if they had been listening all along. Zane stood and looked one last time at the Lost Oasis. It glowed under the moonlight, serene. Full. Thank you, he whispered. To the place. To the journey. To the friends beside him. Then. Slowly, steadily, they turned. And began the long walk back. But this time. They weren't chasing hope. They were carrying it. In the jug. In their steps. In their hearts. And beneath the sand, the water followed. Quiet. Steady. Forever. The desert was still sleeping. When Zane and his friends returned. The sky had just started to glow with a sleepy kind of blue. And the first breeze of morning tiptoed across the sand like a whisper. Zane, the baby camel with big, sparkling eyes, walked slowly toward his village. His cracked jug swayed gently on his back, but this time, it wasn't heavy. It swished with joy. With memories. With hope. Beside him walked Dash, the tiny mouse who loved snacks and silly dances. And Tarek, the baby fennec fox with big, listening ears, who used to be afraid of the sky. But now walked tall beneath it. The three of them were dusty, a little tired. But their hearts were glowing like lanterns. As they came over the last dune, they saw it. Home. Their village. Still quiet. Still dry. But not for long. Zane stopped at the well and took a deep breath. He reached for the jug. And then. A sound. A soft one. Like a sigh from the ground. Then a bubbling. A humming. A ripple of movement beneath the sand. The villagers began to stir. Goober the goat peeked from his tent, yawning loudly. Tiki the meerkat rubbed her sleepy eyes. Old Nana Owl blinked behind her glasses. And then. Whoosh. Water. Rushing up from the old well like a fountain of light. Clean. Cool. Sparkling. Zane's eyes filled with tears. He watched as the well spilled over. Then as the water danced into little rivers. Then soaked the ground with gentle kisses. Tarek had done it. The water beneath the Lost Oasis had found its way home. The village gasped. Goober fainted and then immediately got up and fainted again. Tiki danced in a circle, shouting, "Water. Real water. I'm not dreaming." Old Nana Owl flapped her wings in wonder. "It smells like the sky." Zane's mother was the first to reach him. She ran, laughing and crying, and wrapped him in the biggest, softest hug. "You did it," she whispered into his fur. "My brave one. My shining one." Zane could hardly speak. His heart felt too full. So he just nodded, and held her tighter. And then. A voice. Soft. Raspy. Familiar. "Zane." He turned. And there. Standing slowly. His legs still wobbly but strong. Was his papa. Zane froze. "Papa?" His father smiled, slow and gentle. "I heard the water, and I had to see it for myself." Zane ran. Straight into his papa's arms. They both cried, holding each other tightly. No words were needed. Just the sound of water, and hearts healing. The villagers began to cheer. They danced. They laughed. They cried. Buckets were filled. Gardens were dug. Seeds were planted. For the first time in many seasons, hope grew roots. Days passed. And then weeks. The dry land turned green. Tiny sprouts poked from the ground. Flowers bloomed in places that had only known dust. Fruits began to grow, round and juicy and colorful. Children played near little streams. Elders sat beneath shady trees and sang old songs they hadn't sung in years. Zane helped build new paths with water markers, just like the ones they'd made by the Lost Oasis. Dash made a tiny juice stand called Dash Splash, which didn't sell anything, but gave out imaginary drinks with funny names like Snailberry Squish and Fox Fizz. Tarek listened to the ground each morning. He said the water still whispered to him. It was happy to flow. The village was alive. One evening, as the stars peeked out again, Zane sat beside the well, watching the light twinkle. Tarek joined him. He was quiet, softer than usual. Zane looked over. Everything okay? Tarek nodded slowly. Yes. Just thinking. About what? Tarek looked up at the sky. I think my time here is done. Zane blinked. What do you mean? Tarek's voice was gentle. I came to help you find the oasis. I came to guide the water. I came to face the sky. He looked at Zane with kind, glimmering eyes. And now? I think it's time to return. Zane's lip trembled. Return where? Tarek smiled. To the stars. And just then, a soft glow appeared above them. The sky shimmered. And down floated a light. No, not a light. A gentle elephant with tusks that glowed like the moon. A wise old owl carrying a lantern on his back. Tiny foxes made of stardust, dancing in a line. Zane gasped. The Star Walkers. Tarek nodded. They walk the skies, guiding hearts that are brave, and kind, and full of dreams. Zane's eyes filled again. But I'll miss you. I'll miss you too, Tarek whispered. But look for me. Each night. I'll be there. Dash ran over, holding a palm leaf hat. Wait, wait. You're leaving now. Who will stop Zane from organizing everything? Zane laughed softly through his tears. Tarek hugged them both. Then stepped back. And slowly, gently, his paws left the ground. The stardust foxes surrounded him. The owl lit his lantern. And the elephant raised his tusks toward the sky. Tarek smiled down at them, one last time. Thank you, he said. Then he rose into the stars. And became one of them. A shimmer in the sky. A whisper in the night. That evening, Zane told the village children about the journey. He told them about the sandstorm. And the cracked jug. And the drop of dew. He told them about the dancing cactus, the canyon of bones. And the field of blooming flowers. Dash acted out every part dramatically, using pots and scarves and snack crumbs. Laughter filled the air. But when Zane spoke about Tarek, the village grew quiet. He looked up at the stars. There he is, he whispered. See that twinkle? That's him. The children waved at the sky. And the stars seemed to wave back. That night, as Zane curled up beneath a sky full of light, he whispered to the jug beside him. You were cracked. But you still carried enough. He smiled. Just like me. Then, with Dash snoring softly beside him, and the wind humming a sleepy song, Zane closed his eyes. The stars danced above. The village breathed deeply. The water kept flowing. And the gentle elephant. And the wise old owl. And the tiny foxes of stardust walked across the sky once more. Guiding dreamers. Guiding hearts. Guiding little camels with big sparkling eyes. who choose, again and again, to walk. Even when they're scared. Even when their jug is cracked. Even when they don't know the way. Because sometimes, the journey is the treasure. And sometimes, so are you. Good night, little dreamer. The water will follow. Forever. And now, the story settles into quiet. Not an ending. Just a soft resting place for your heart. Zane's journey through the desert. Through fear, silence, and long dry days. Was never just about finding water. It was a story about how to stay strong in tough times. About how to stay positive in bad times. Even when everything around you feels uncertain. And the weight you're carrying feels too much to bear. Sometimes the road feels endless. The world feels heavy. The light feels far away. But like Zane, you keep going. Even with a cracked jug. Even with tears in your eyes. Even when you're not sure where the next step will lead. And that is what real strength looks like. If you ever forget, come back to these gentle reminders. 7 soft secrets to becoming mentally tougher. Quietly tucked into Zane's story. 1. It's okay to pour out your feelings. Zane had his jug. Not just to carry water. But to hold his worries, his sadness, and his hope. Sometimes, when we pour out what feels heavy inside, our challenges start to feel lighter. We don't need to hold everything all at once. 2. You always have the power to choose. Even when things felt uncertain. Zane chose to keep going. He chose kindness. He chose courage. And you can, too. Your choices, no matter how small, can shape the story you're walking through. 3. Face the hard things first. Zane didn't wait for comfort to come. He walked into the storm. He climbed the tallest dune. Because doing the difficult thing early makes everything else feel just a little more possible. It builds strength. One brave step at a time. 4. Let setbacks become soft teachers. Zane didn't always get it right. He fell. He cried. He lost things. But instead of giving up, he gave thanks. Even in the struggle, he looked for something to be grateful for. A small flower, a breeze, a friend. Gratitude doesn't erase hardship, but it helps you rise above it. 5. Practice gratitude and learn to say thank you. Zane noticed every small kindness along the way. To the desert. To the aloe. A drop of dew. A quiet friend walking beside him. He whispered thank you to the sky. To the stars. Even to the sand beneath his feet. Gratitude doesn't have to be loud. Just true. The more you say thank you, the more your heart remembers what still feels good, even in the middle of hard things. 6. Let go of what you can't control. Zane couldn't change the heat, or the winds, or the distance. But he could take one more step. And one more after that. Peace doesn't come from fixing everything. It comes from learning what to carry, and what to gently release. 7. Stand tall with quiet courage. Even when he was afraid, Zane kept walking. Not because he never doubted, but because he believed his journey mattered. He stood tall. Not with loudness. Not with perfection. But with heart. This is how to stay strong in difficult times. A soft, steady path. A lesson wrapped in the footprints of a baby camel. If this story reminded you of something true, something quiet and deep inside you, you can gently like this video. Share it with someone whose heart may need a little light. And subscribe if you'd like to return to this safe and peaceful space again. Every gentle gesture, every quiet word, helps grow this little corner of calm. In a busy, noisy world. Thank you. For listening. For walking beside Zane. And for being here. As you rest now. Or return softly to your day. Carry this with you. You don't need to be fearless to be strong. You don't need to be loud to be brave. Even with a broken jug. You can still carry something beautiful. Keep going. With softness. With steadiness. With love. You are not behind. You are not too late. You are gently becoming. More rooted. More resilient. And more ready for the light ahead. Take good care, little heart. And rest well. The stars are watching. And the water will always follow.